Hi, everyone. Lori S. Steve here from SOBBS, Stories of Babies Born Still. I wanted to come on and talk to you a little bit about something that's been weighing heavy on my heart the last couple weeks. We don't do a lot of videos like this, but we're going to increase that in the near future. So this is a little bit of an experiment for us. We usually share a lot of our comment and content on Facebook. And about 2 weeks ago, we had shared a post about cord compressions, um, true knots, and things like that. As always, our goal is to shatter the silence surrounding stillbirth and pregnancy and infant loss awareness. So it's always very, very important to us to get the information out there. And I was so surprised on some of the comments that had popped up on the post that we had made. We had a couple people come on and say this, knots in the cords don't happen very often. It's just a once in a while type thing. Well, it happened to me. And I just feel like we need to talk about it a little bit more. I feel like if a doctor would have told me, like in my prenatal appointment, my very first appointment, when they give you all of those risk factors and things to watch out for, just a wealth of information. I feel like we're really missing an opportunity to help moms, to kind of advocate for themselves and kind of learn things and just be aware of all of the possibilities, all of the complications. If I would have known that stillbirth occurs or happens, and it can happen anywhere, right up until birth, and then of course after birth, um, I think things would have been so different. For me, my baby stopped moving around about 3 days before I actually went into the doctor's office. But I remember thinking, he wasn't moving as much and I wasn't sure what was going on. So I had actually called the doctor's office and spoke with the nurse and said, I'm a little concerned. Haven't been feeling baby move a whole lot. And of course, it was my first pregnancy, so I didn't really know what to expect and how to convey my feelings that of misgivings that I was having. And the nurse said, well, as the baby gets bigger, there's less room for the baby to move around. So the baby will move less, and don't worry too much about it. And we'll see you on, I think it was Thursday. I think this was like a Monday, and they were seeing me on Thursday follow up. We'll see you on Thursday. And so, that calmed my mind a little bit. And on Thursday, of course, I go into the doctor's office, and I'm 40 weeks plus 2 days at that point. And of course, they couldn't find the heartbeat, so I was sent to the hospital and induced, and all of that. Um, and as heartbreaking as all of that was, we really didn't know why Zachary had passed until after he was born. And when he was delivered, the doctor said there's 2 true knots in his cord. Well, I had never heard of such a thing. I had never even fathomed that such things like that could happen. Um, and I just wish that at those first prenatal visits, when they talk to you about prenatal vitamins and risk factors and don't drink and don't smoke and the risk of miscarriage and things like that, if somebody would have said, and right up, there's always a chance for stillbirth, so we always want you to count the kicks and monitor your baby's movements, and if anything feels different to you, give us a call right away. That's how I wish that doctors' offices would approach this topic, because we need to start educating our moms from the beginning, not after. I feel like if I had known, I would have had the opportunity to meet my baby um, before the natural changes that occur in death had started to take place. He hadn't moved in about 4 days, and then I was being admitted to the hospital, and I was in labor for 2 days. And then after I had him, of course, he's beautiful to me. I mean, he was just beautiful, but because he had been passed for a couple days, the skin around his little eyes and around his little nose had started to peel, and just natural things that happen. And baby's skin is so delicate anyway. Um, I feel like if I had known that my baby was in trouble, that that I would have reached out and been more firm with my call to my doctor. And I feel like I might have been able to meet him before those things started to happen. So for the staff who says that, it doesn't happen very often, so we don't really need to talk about it. Well, it happened to me, and it happens to 26,000 pregnancies in the United States every year. So stillbirth is really something we should be talking about. We should be educating about, and might not be able to change things. Stillbirth is still going to happen, but like I said, we could change the whole dynamics, how parents react to that, and how they feel about it, and how it opens a dialogue between them and their caregivers and their doctors. It's so heartbreaking to me that we're still shying away from this topic. SOBBS has been SOBBS has been an organization since 2010, and a lot has changed. It really has. We've educated, there's so many organizations and individuals who have educated hospitals and staff and just the general public about, the needs of bereaved parents and things like that. But we still have a long way to go. We still have so much to do. We need to change the thought process of our hospitals and how they educate us and how they support the needs of bereaved parents, because there's still hospitals out there who don't really have a bereavement protocol in place. And it's so sad that when families get discharged and then they go home and they start doing research and start connecting with other moms, they find out there's so much more that they could have done. They could have bathed their baby, they could have stayed with their baby, they could have taken a little hair clipping, they could all these other things, but they're afraid to ask. Like for me, I didn't want to ask because I didn't know if I was being morbid or and I was very young. I was only 19 and only been married a year, so we were just starting out, and then we had this terrible thing happen to us, and it just was heartbreaking because I read about families who had gotten pictures and families who had spent the night with their baby and in special cooling beds that allow you to have the baby a little bit longer by your bedside, because that just slows things down and lets parents assimilate the information and make real what's happened on the outside in their heart as well as their head. So I just wish that if the medical staff as a whole would start talking to families about the possibility of stillbirth. And I'm not saying we don't have to talk about it every time, but just make them aware that, this is one of the things we want you to look out for. Make sure, one of the warning signs that, it happens 1 in 26,000, which does mean it's not going to happen very often, but still the one person that happens to, you can make all the difference in the world by sharing a little bit of information up front, and letting them know too that it happens. If it happens to you, it doesn't mean you're a bad mom. It doesn't mean you did anything bad while you were pregnant. It doesn't mean that you're a failure, because all those things start running through your head. Because for me, it was like, oh my gosh, I had never even heard the term stillbirth. And then it happened to me, and I thought, I've never known anybody in my whole entire life who this has happened to. So I really kind of felt super alone and kind of ashamed and all kinds of things. But after I got out of the hospital and I started talking to women and to women in my own family, some of my friends, I found out that this does happen. We're just not empowered to talk about it very often. So that could start with with our doctors and our nurses speaking to us a little bit about it in the very beginning, and kind of educating us and letting us know that it's okay to talk about it, and it's okay to have these worries and concerns, because it's having those worries and those concerns is the only way that we're going to change the outcome and possibly save one baby. And even if we only save one baby, it's worth it. So let's all help shatter the silence and empower our doctors and nurses to talk about stillbirth, to talk about, infant loss. Yes, it's heartbreaking. It's devastating. Nobody wants to imagine that will happen to them, but it does happen, and we do need to talk about it. Shattering the silence with you, Lori S. Steve.